to start with President Trump's total lack of historical knowledge and perspective on these events. Good morning.
Well, hi, Nick. Like most veterans, I'm appalled by the statement. For the record, there were 3 Victoria Crosses awarded to British forces in Afghanistan, 2 of them posthumously. The 3rd was awarded to Joshua Leakey, who was in a joint American-British patrol. Joshua Leakey ran down a hill under fire and carried an American captain on his shoulders to safety in that action. I just think it's Trump grandstanding. He's got the publicity he wanted, even though it's adverse publicity. That doesn't worry him. He's a media man. He wants publicity, which he's got.
And the families, lastly, Jeremy, how do you imagine the families feel or felt when they heard or saw this news yesterday?
Appalling. I mean, they lost their loved ones, 457. How can you reconcile that when Trump stands up and said we weren't in the front line?
Thank you for your call, thank you for your service, and thank you for pointing out in such graphic detail the bravery of those particular soldiers. Jeremy, thanks. I remind you of those numbers. 457 British military personnel and some civilians were never to return from Afghanistan. 616 did, with injuries, some of which are life-changing, life-altering.
John is in Glasgow. John, what would you like to say?
I phoned up to initially tell about, obviously, Josh Leakey VC.
Yeah.
He was a friend. I've not seen him in years. I hope he would still be a friend. It would be great if you could read out his citation.
OK. Shall I do it now?
Yeah, I just I'll let you evaluate it.
No, you don't need to. I actually had it in front of me, John, by coincidence. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the citation, but I've got what he said, and then I've got the description of what happened. When you hear there's a man down, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Clearly, then your plans change. Realising the seriousness of the situation and with complete disregard for his own safety, he dashed across a large area of barren hillside, being raked with machine gun fire. As he crested the hill, the full severity of the situation became apparent. Approximately 20 enemy had surrounded 2 friendly machine gun teams and a mortar section, rendering their critical fire support ineffective. Under fire, yet undeterred by the very clear and present danger, Lance Corporal Leakey ran across the exposed slope of the hill 3 times to initiate casualty evacuation, re-sight machine guns and return fire. His actions proved the turning point, inspiring his comrades to fight back with renewed ferocity, displaying gritty leadership well above that expected of his rank. Lance Corporal Leakey's actions single-handedly regained the initiative and prevented considerable loss of life. And it was the United States Marine Corps who were holding the positions that he evacuated the casualties from. Or, to paraphrase the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, he held back from the front line, John.
I want to also say that Josh didn't do his actions thinking that he would be awarded the highest honour. He did it for the overarching good, the right thing to do. I joined in 2001 and was part of the invasion of 2003. I was unfortunately medical discharged in 2017 for complex PTSD. Everything just caught up with me.
Of course, I'm sorry.
That's not your fault. We can't go back and change things. I don't know. I'm really angry. Sorry.
I apologise.
Trump is a war dodger and he is in no position to comment on anybody's bravery. He's a coward. And when I watched the media, I think he feels like he's part of these operations that have happened recently. It increases his masculinity as a leader. The
psychological makeup of the man is something we're probably going to spend the rest of our lives trying to unravel. But I can't quite, and I don't even know if it's appropriate to invite you to try, but how could he get such a hideously wrong idea about recent history and very well-recorded history?
I think the lack of him actually being interested in it, his team around him. I just wanted to bring up the other points I raised to your researcher, and that
go on.
In Helmand, the Americans couldn't get onto the ground without British soldiers being there. So they were stuck behind their fences or whatever, his razor wire, and it had to take British troops being part of their operation to get them to get into combat. And this is quite I would say a heartwarming story. In my last tour to Afghanistan, my mum used to send out caramel shortbread, and the Americans, there's only a few of them, loved it. And that was it became like a barter sort of trade situation. I would trade for it was a brand called Rip It, high caffeine drink.
Did you get what you wanted on Green? Donald Trump's frenzied two-day appearance at the World Economic Forum ended with more questions than answers about Greenland. An immediate crisis between the US and its European allies was averted, but there's still uncertainty over the future of the world's largest island. As he returned to Washington, the president was again pressed by reporters to explain what the deal, which he says will last forever, really means.
We can do anything we want. We can do military. We can do anything we want. And it's being negotiated.
He says will last forever really means.
We can do anything we want. We can do military. We can do anything we want. And it's being negotiated. And let's see what happens. I think it'll be good.
Mr. Trump added that we would know more in 2 weeks. Another deadline from the president to find out whether this is a deal that everyone can live with. While we wait for further clarification, there is a sense of relief across Europe that the dispute over the island didn't escalate further. Donald Trump dominated the headlines during his time in Davos. As well as Greenland, he launched his Board of Peace initiative, envisioned initially as part of the peace process in Gaza, but with many countries reserving judgment and refusing to sign up, while overnight he continued his war of words with Canada by withdrawing its invitation to join the new body. The president also provoked outrage among MPs and veterans in the UK after claiming NATO troops stayed away from the front line in Afghanistan. His comments came during an interview with Fox News, in which he reiterated his suggestion that NATO would not support America if asked.
We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
UK was among several allies.
We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines.
UK was among several allies to join the US in Afghanistan from 2001, when it invoked NATO's collective security clause after the attacks on 9/11.
It's an absolute insult. It's an insult to 457 families who lost someone in Afghanistan. How dare he say we weren't on the front line?
Mr. Trump is now back at the White House, leaving chaos, confusion and much anger behind him in Europe.
Trump treats European leaders like this is because he thinks they're weak. And if we want that to stop happening, there's only one thing we need to do, which is to build up our own defences, because in the end he is not going to respect people who can't defend themselves.
The old idea of an international order with countries like America respecting it is over. Donald Trump is into strong men and spheres of influence, and international law is something he doesn't really care about.
What we do know, the words that he says, they change from day to day. He changed his position on Chagos, he changes his position on whether he likes people or whether he's cross with them. And ironically, that is part of the plan, because that changing around of his position means that he has totally dominated the media, not just in America, but across the world for the last 48 hours. And I think we have to know the next time this happens just to keep a slightly cooler head, because this is someone who, part of the plan is to make sure that we're all talking about him, just as we're doing this evening.
Absolutely,
here.
and it could all change tomorrow or next week. Sophia Gaston, what's your reading of what's happened? Obviously, we were awaiting the detail, but from the clips of Donald Trump that we've seen this evening, what are you thinking?
Well, my understanding was that the president received, pretty strong representations against, the use of force in Greenland, and was persuaded that it would be very damaging to NATO. So then the question was, could the Europeans come up with an elegant solution that he could claim as a victory without us fundamentally having to cede Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland? So I think that's where we've got to.
But so are we saying it's a win-win for everyone involved? Is that how it could be presented? What are you thinking?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I mean,
so who's losing then?
Well, I think all NATO members have lost, because this is the point. I mean, even if we find a way out of this crisis, it looks like we have, NATO is weaker. Yeah. And we have to recognise that, people like Vladimir Putin will look at what's happened and they will think that when it comes to Ukraine, their hand is stronger. And, the bottom line is, the reason that Trump treats European leaders like this is because he thinks they're weak. And if we want that to stop happening, there's only one thing we need to do, which is to build up our own defences, because in the end he is not going to respect people who can't defend themselves. Donald Trump looks at the world through economic spectacles. He's thinking about the dollars in everything that happens, because in the end he is not going to respect people who can't defend themselves. Donald Trump looks at the world through economic spectacles. He's thinking about the dollars in everything that happens, and his contempt for Europe isn't just about not spending enough on defence. It's about looks at the world through economic spectacles. He's thinking about the dollars in everything that happens, and his contempt for Europe isn't just about not spending enough on defence. It's about our economic weakness. And so the longer term solution to this is absolutely to work out how to get our economies growing like Chinese economy, like the American economy, which are both doing much, much better than we are. Where I think